Well, batching into today's video, we're going to have a look at the weather for this week and next week. I'm getting a bit concerned about next week's weather already. I think there is the potential for some heavy rain for several days next week, perhaps from Monday through to Wednesday. We could get a system sort of string out over the country. Could be a lot of rain coming up. August is often a wet month. Funnily enough, it's often our wettest month on average of the year. It looks like August 2014 is going to go down as a wet one if the charts that we're seeing this morning come true. It's a little way off though. It's around a week away, so perhaps not necessarily be too concerned about it just yet, but the potential is certainly there for something quite significant to take place early next week in terms of rain. We'll have a look at all the charts in a moment. Before I get on with the video, just want to mention the advertising. The video ad page is at GazWeapons.com. Keep playing on the video ad. You'll be supporting GazWeapons.com. Thanks very much for doing that. So let's just have a look at what's going on right now. This is a high resolution Euro 4 model from the website weatheronline.co.uk. You can find a link to Weather Online on my links page. This heavy rain up here across Scotland is still tied in with the system that we had come across the country yesterday. The remains of hurricane, or it was only a hurricane very briefly, but tropical storm Bertha, and that's all pushed off up to the north now, producing copious amounts of rain still across Scotland, and a cold northwesterly winds. Feels very, very autumnal up there, I'm afraid. Now, through the course of the rest of today, we're going to find rain persisting over much of Scotland, pushing more towards the west, if anything, through the course of the day. Then, following along with these westerly winds, we're getting heavy showers coming in across Ireland, England and Wales, and they'll get more widespread through the afternoon, so that by 6 o'clock this evening, the Euro 4 model is seeing a lot of precipitation here across the country, mainly in the form of bands of showers, and some of them will be heavy and prolonged, but blowing through fairly readily on that westerly wind. It's quite a windy day, so the showers will blow through quite quickly, but the problem is they're lining up here, so you'll have one blowing through quickly, and then you could get another one coming along within a few minutes, and in the end it finishes up being more like a prolonged bout of rain, really, with drier slots in between. But the really wet weather is still going to be up to the north, churning away to the north and the northwest of Scotland. Going through to tonight, those showers will die down a little bit, but it stays very wet still across much of Scotland away from the northeast. The showers will die back towards the western coast here and the southern coast through the night. The breeze will keep up, quite a chilly wind through the night, and then we do it all over again tomorrow, really. Things will turn more showery across Scotland, but elsewhere I think we're looking at basically again bands of showers going through. Maybe not quite as many as today, but certainly the suggestion there that showers are banding together to rattle through on that brisk westerly wind. And we'll keep that sort of scenario going through much of the week. This area of low pressure, which on Tuesday is centred somewhere around Shetland, will actually sink down across the country through the middle stages of the week. If anything, it'll ease the winds off, so we'll lose that breeze, but it'll make the showers more slow moving, and overall it is going to be pretty unsettled and cool excuse me, week coming up. This is the Central England temperature from Hadley, just seeing how we're doing with the temperatures so far through August. We currently provisionally stand at 17.0, which is an anomaly of 1.0 degrees, 1 degree above average. So it's still above average, being a fairly warmish start to August. I think we'll find the temperature slipping back more and more through the next week or two. We're probably going to end up around average, may even go below average, in fact, within around a week or a couple of weeks, something like that. But if we had a warm spell at the end of the month, that might tick us back up. But certainly doesn't look like going to be a particularly hot month by any means this week. If we do come out above average in the end, it will only be very, very slightly, and an average, and possibly even below average month is certainly possible this month, this August. That's the first time we've been able to say that so far this year. So having a look at the GFS ensembles, temperature and precipitation ensembles, we can see that we're going to be staying solidly below average for the foreseeable future in terms of the upper air temperatures. The sun, when it comes out, if you get lucky with the showers and you don't get too many, the sun will be able to offset these upper air temperatures somewhat and lift things back up closer to average, but overall a pretty cool period coming up. The thick red line here is the 30-year temperature average for this time of the year, and we see that the ensemble is solidly below average through most of the coming week. going to tick up a little bit as we get through towards the weekend and the start of next week, only going back towards normal, but that's associated with this increase in these rainfall spikes. And that's what I was talking about at the start of the video, the risk of some very significant rain perhaps coming up later on in the coming weekend, and into the start of next week. Have a look at that in a moment. And then we just drop that below average again once that system goes through. It'll take a long time, but eventually we drop that below average. And certainly no sign there of anything especially hot in the offing for the foreseeable future. Now let's have a look at this rain that could be on its way for next week, early next week. This is how we go into Saturday, with low pressure still sitting to the north of Scotland, really, so it'll still be showery. High pressure is trying to ridge in there to the south, but notice this area of high pressure developing up over Greenland. That is hints of northern blocking, and whenever you get northern blocking in summer, it's usually a bad sort of scenario, a bad development, because it means you'll start to get temperature contrast between cool air trying to push down from the Arctic and warmer air, but associated with this big area of high pressure, of course, from the Azores, the summer warmth. And when you get those temperature contrasts, that very often for us produces quite a lot of rain, and this could be what we're looking at as we get through towards the weekend and on into next week. So notice what happens as we get through to Sunday. We've got the Azores high there bridging through France. We've got the blocking area of high pressure around Greenland. So we've got these two conflicting air masses fighting against each other, the warmth from the south, the cool from the north. This area of low pressure to the northeast of Scotland, but between the two air masses, we've got a trailing sort of weather front, which is going to have wriggles running along it, going down to here right out into the central part of the Atlantic. As I say, you've got warm air coming from that direction, from the south into that zone of waving sort of weather fronts. You've got cold air or cool air coming down from the north, and the result is that you get this wave developing, which does produce, or can produce in summer anyway, quite a lot of rain. And we keep that sort of going through into start of next week, Monday the 18th. So there's a front here strung out right across the country, trailing back into the Atlantic. We'll have ripples of heavy rain running along it. Eventually, by the time we get through to Tuesday the 19th, this is 3 days into this scenario, so we've got Sunday, Monday going on into Tuesday. By the time we get through to Tuesday, we actually develop an area of low pressure over country within that waving weather front. And that sort of solves the scenario in the end, because that low pressure pushes things off to the east, and this cool air begins to sink down from the north. But it takes quite a few days for that to happen. Cool air eventually wins that battle as the low pressure pushes off to the east. It takes quite a few days for that to happen, and in those days there's the risk of some quite heavy and significant rain. Here's the precipitation forecast from the GFS for Sunday, showing that we've already got signs of a little bit of a weak weather system over the country, but notice all this rain down here trailing back into the Azores. That's the development really of this trailing weather system. And as we run through Sunday, we find that system pushing in from the Atlantic, bringing heavy rain into Ireland. Eventually that spreads across England and Wales. By the time we get through to Monday, Sunday night into Monday morning, well, yeah, you can see what's going on there. We've got that front strung out across the country, trailing back into the central part of the Atlantic. Pulses of heavy rain running along that front, so it could be significantly wet as we get through to the end of the coming weekend and the start of next week. This is for 6 o'clock in the evening, and that front is still there, trailing back into the Atlantic, producing those pulses of heavy rain. As we go out beyond that into Tuesday, keep it very unsettled, heavy rain across the country, strung out with that weather system. Remember, we're forming an area of low pressure as we get through to the middle of next week, so eventually it'll push everything off eastwards and the cool air will start to win the battle. But there's at least 2 or 3 days here, you'll notice, of very heavy and significant rain, at least as a risk of very heavy and significant rain. So we've got to be watching out for this. I think we could definitely see the risk of significant rainfall starting perhaps Sunday, going through towards the middle of next week. It's a long way off though. It's just under a week away, or it's around a week away, so there is quite a bit of uncertainty about it, but I'm certainly a bit concerned because the potential is there when you get those fronts strung out trailing into the Atlantic with temperature contrast on either side in summer. When you get that, it can be a sign of very significant rain. We had those type of scenarios through the summer of 2007 where we had all those awful floods, so we won't see anything as bad as that this time, because that was over several months. If you remember, the rain just kept falling and falling and falling through May, June and July 2007, and the end result was that the whole country finished up flooded out, so anywhere near to water were finished up flooded out. We're not going to see anything as bad as that this time, but there is the potential from that sort of scenario from quite a lot of rain. The ECMWF isn't in agreement with this, so that's the good news. We've got that low pressure to the north of Scotland on Sunday, but we haven't got the weather front strung out and training back into the Atlantic. What the ECMWF wants to do, they just keep this low pressure going to the north and northeast of Scotland, so it remains showery. We've got heavy showers rotating around this area of low pressure, but we've not got that front sort of strung out, producing those prolonged bouts and wriggles of rain coming up from the Atlantic. Nevertheless, it is unsettled as we go through to next week, and around the middle of next week we could bring up a development from the south there, perhaps. That could be quite wet for southern parts, but it isn't as bad as the GFS. The GFS is quite concerning the way it has that front sort of strung out and pulses of rain running through the country over several days. That's how we end up on day 10 with the ECMWF. With low pressure still in control, we're still in an unsettled showery situation, but it's not as bad in terms of rainfall potential. Have to keep an eye on it though. There could be something very significant taking place next week. Just have a look at the rest of August going on into September. This is the CFS temperature and precipitation. The CFS temperature forecast for the city of Birmingham. This is the city forecast from the CFS model for Birmingham. We've got two different versions of the CFS. I don't think I've ever explained this before. We've got the longer range version, which is what you're looking at here, goes out over 9 months. And then we've got a shorter range version. Have a look at the longer range version first of all. This graph takes us to around the middle of September. This is 21st of September, just here. We see temperatures stay pretty cool or no better than average throughout really, so no sign of anything particularly exciting coming up on this particular graph for Birmingham over the coming 6 weeks. This is 20 Celsius just here, and in August, if you're under 20 Celsius, you're not doing very good at all. In September, it's a little bit closer to the average, certainly early September. But overall, we don't get any better than sort of the upper teens. We don't really get to 20 Celsius throughout the graph, so you have to say that's pretty disappointing in terms of the rest of August, and fairly cool actually, even for the start of September. Nothing there that would suggest anything particularly warm coming up. If that's right, we've had the warmest spell of the year most certainly, and we're not going to be seeing anything close to the sort of temperatures that we had in July. Now, the shorter range temperature forecast from the CFS model, or the shorter range model temperature forecast from the CFS model, this one only goes out 2 or 3 months, and again with this we're finishing around middle of September with this particular graph. This does have a bit of a warm up as we get through to the end of August, so here's the temperatures here for where we are now. We stay pretty cool actually, going up to around the 21st, which is just here. Then we do get a push up in the temperatures through the final week of August. They go quite hot actually. This is 27 Celsius up here, 80 Fahrenheit, so significantly warmer on this version of the CFS model, this shorter range version, than the last graph that we was looking at, which is based on the longer range 9 monthly CFS. So yeah, we do push up through the final week of September. We do get a little bit of a heat wave developing there. As we get through to the start of September, this is September the 1st, just here we see the temperatures dropping back, and then they go pretty cool then through the rest of the chart. That it looks like it's summer over and done and dusted once we get through to the first week of September. But that warm up through that final week of August is quite interesting there, because that of course coincides with the bank holiday weekend, and I'm going to be starting to look at the bank holiday weekend actually on the events page this evening. CFS is very experimental, but the bank holiday weekend is now within the time frame of the GFS model, sort of a shorter range, more reliable model. So I'll be having a look at the bank holiday weekend starting this evening on the events page, so come back to that if you're interested what the weather may be doing for the bank holiday weekend. But there is the suggestion there of a bit of good news anyway, if you like it warmer, as we get through to that final week, particularly around bank holiday weekend, final week of August, we could see one last burst of summer heat. But coming back to the weather for this week, it's staying cool and showery, and then as we go through into the weekend and the start of next week, we've got to be watching out for the risks, no more than that at this stage, but the risk of some very significant wet weather could well lead to localised flooding if it comes off, as the GFS is predicting there'll be copious amounts of rain over 2 or 3 days for some parts of the country. So I'll keep you updated on that. Come back this evening if you're interested in what weather may be doing for bank holiday weekend. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.